January 21st, 2023. It's about 8:48 in the evening, Pacific Standard Time. John Weaver, Roseman, California. Diary of the Griever named John Weaver, which would be me. Attention to the David Pakman Show. Mr. Pakman, how do you do, sir? Caught your act regarding the Republicans 2023. Museums and books are bad. You being in your 30s or just about crossing into the 40 threshold, and me jumping about almost 15 or so years ahead of you. I have never seen anything what we have been going through over the past 20 years in his lifetime. Well, maybe 25 years would be in regards to politics. Yeah, I'd seen how the Tea Party acted a long time ago and how they wanted power, and they got the temporary power by watching all hell break loose, so I might as well do the same damn stuff. And now we got the new generation coming out here following the same lessons, but being led by a lunatic, which we already called the 45 gas bag. Yeah, I'm no fan of him either. I still consider him a lot of negative things that Google and YouTube would actually cancel my plug altogether. But consider that I consider these guys to be nothing but pain in the asses. Listening to what you and the Young Turks, the Rebel HQ, and a few other people have been trying to indicate how screwed up things are. I'll tell you something. If we actually had this crap going on about 30 or 40 years, or even 50 years, things would have been, well, maybe they would have changed. We didn't have the instant communication like we have now, at least back then. If we had, would things have changed much? I doubt it. We were already screwed up back then anyway, but we were not that fringe happy like today. And considering how the GOP, according to a couple of people, are considering of saying museums are bad. Actually, she probably had gone into a museum and been stuffy-headed about the damn thing. Yes, there is a level of cultural appreciation that one has to bring in, and also an open mind. When one goes into a museum or even a bookstore or a library, you are entering a cathedral of knowledge. You are entering a palace that actually is demonstrating what it is. We have had sculptures and paintings from different artists who put their heart and soul into the work. The work's not valid these days. Paintings of any and all extremes, or even in between, to tell a story that people have to be understanding the language. Art is a language. Art is a language, and it's speaking to us. There was paintings done from people I have come across. We actually had the Van Gogh coming through the Los Angeles market area years back. I was over at LACMA, LA County of Museum and Arts, or for the arts anyway. And my mother had obtained tickets for this. My brother, my mother, and I had waited for 3 or 4 hours in line in the cold of night with hundreds of people before and after us, waiting for this exhibit to give us the time to go in. And got in we did. What drove me mad is a lot of people wanted to touch those paintings left and right. Other people had to shoo them away. To see the artwork of Van Gogh, to see a self-portrait of the man. You see the haunting look in his face. Understand his history. Understand what hell he'd gone through. It's like, how would you look at the farmer, the picture of it, the farmer with the wife with the pitchfork in it? Or how about Norman Rockwell's Saturday Evening Post? Could have got the title wrong on that one, but I know about Rockwell. You ever seen the pictures of the Mona Lisa? No, I just had a little bit of appreciation concerning about what art does, it actually does to a person. They actually understand it. New age artists, not so much. Old artists, if I look at the pictures enough. My mother actually had a picture, actually a few pictures that had been hanging around. One was called the Cardinal, a lithograph of it. You see the Cardinal sleeping while the painter's trying to paint a projected figure of energy and of life. Art is a way of expression, Mr. Pakman. And apparently some people aren't appreciative of that. We also had a few times of Egyptian artifacts coming through Lakma during that time. I tell you, to see it, to see a sarcophagus, to see a dig site carefully preserved, miniature artifacts, things I would never see unless I'd gone to Egypt. Maybe see some of the artifacts over there. I had even seen King Tut's sarcophagus. They kept it carefully preserved. Here's another thing. They don't like museums? Then maybe all of our national archives need to go away as well, including the Smithsonian. Mr. Pakman, have you ever seen exhibits either on tour or at the museum? We, again, years ago, actually had a tour coming through the Los Angeles Convention Center. I'd seen the stovetop hat with the blood on it dried throughout the years of Lincoln. I had seen the Apollo 1 actual capsule. I cried. I cried. I was familiar of the story because I had read about it. I had even seen a fictional series, From the Earth to the Moon. And when it happened, I cried. Because here it was in front of me. The actual capsule that they were doing plugs out test on it. Testing to see if the capsule would sustain a constant atmosphere of pure oxygen in there. And for how long would it be airtight in a vacuum of space with its new design and everything in it? Gus Grissom. He damn near lost his life when he flew his own Mercury craft, the second one right after Shepard. I watched the movie The Right Stuff, but I had to read Tom Wolper's book on that one as well. But I also had to research it as well. The unsinkable Molly Brown damn near sunk him. He made, according to what I was learning through all these documents and films, suggestions to NASA to change the ejection or how to get in and out of the capsule. Apparently, they were still having issues regarding the planes that they kept testing in the air, and sometimes the ejection systems wouldn't work. Grissom made a suggestion that ultimately killed him and didn't even realize it. You talk about irony. It was supposed to help them, and it didn't. The actual reports are on the internet. The actual reports concerning about what happened to the Project Apollo fire is on the internet. It's on PDF files. You talk about knowledge base concerning about the space program. I was born, brought up in the space program. 1966. We haven't even landed on the moon, and we're still trying to get through the Apollo. Actually, we're getting past the Mercury and into Project Gemini. Gemini. Coming damn close to ending it and into the Apollo program. And what happens? All hell breaks loose in that damn shit. But we were lucky enough that they constantly made what they had to do. They had to do what they had to do. They had to research. They had to find out. It got through the corporations and the companies that made everything. And they found out what happened to the Apollo spacecraft. They fixed the problem. Next thing you know, we've got unmanned ships going up there. And ultimately in 1969, in July, we touched the lunar surface. You've seen the clips, but you didn't see the actual. I barely remembered it in a living room of an apartment, 2-story, watching this on the television, and I realized what the hell I'm seeing. My mother and my brother were gasping at it. I wish I remembered what I was thinking and feeling when I was only too damn young and watching this thing unfurl. After that, they kept showing the landings a few more times. And I was still trying to learn about it. They gave me books regarding space, and I was reading about it. At the time, they considered Pluto as one of the 9, but now it's just 8 planets. I still consider Pluto as a 9th planet. I don't care what they called it. We got hundreds of celestial bodies orbiting in our solar system. Mostly made of rock, and maybe a few of them have atmospheres. It's not going to be in my lifetime that we're going to be visiting any one of them, but I'd like to know and see it myself. You want to talk about how books are important? Fiction writing? Do these guys actually understand about writers? About dreams? Or is this guy, former World War II veteran, Los Angeles police officer, turned script writer, and sold the script for Star Trek. September 9th, 1966. It came on the air. Trekkies were born. I was born ahead of the time and ahead of the curve. I had read science fiction like crazy afterwards, but I had to read other things as well. School does that to a kid, but also learning does it as well. I may not have been the smartest guy over there, Mr. Pakman, but I had dreams. I wanted to write as good, as qualified as Isaac Asimov, Ray Bradbury, Gene Roddenberry. Isaac Asimov, he was head of his class concerning about robotics, the three laws. Did they not know about Ray Bradbury and his inability to travel on planes and sometimes trains? He preferred taking buses. He didn't like cars all that much. I talked with the man. I talked with the man at one time. He made a difference in my life. He made a difference in my life. I may not have been an academic. I may not have been a scholar at anything. But I swear reading and writing, of understanding the creative process. I don't think anybody in the conservatives understand what that means. They're worried about differences, and yet they scream at it all the time. I'll take a theatrical example for you, sir. You ever came across a movie called Robots? An animated feature. Greg Kinnear is in it, one of the voices of it. Played Obi-Wan Kenobi in the pre-trilogy of Star Wars. Not Greg Kinnear. Was it Greg Kinnear? Good Lord, I'm losing it again. But during this time, while I got you, it helps. It helps to do the research. It helps to do the homework. It helps to search the information out. Ah, come on. Here we go. Chris Wedge, Robin Williams, Ewan McGregor was the name I was trying to remember. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Remember the character name instead of anything else. How about Mel Brooks? Surely you remember him. Halle Berry, Amanda Bynes, Drew Carey, Stanley Tucci. From a gentleman who's been watching films and televisions, Greg Kinnear was in it. Thought I recognized his voice. Played a bad guy in that one. James Earl Jones. Jay Leno, Paulo Abdul, Terry Bradshaw, Al Roker, these names I grew up with. These names I listened and watched and marveled at their voice talents. In the movie, you had a kid with a dream, going through a lot of issues left and right. Ratchet, Kinnear's character, wanted everything new and sparkly. Big Will, played by our very own Mel Brooks, wanted individuality. Everybody's special. Everybody's an individual. There is no one size fits all. It's what we're facing right now, Mr. Pakman. This is what we're facing right now. how to educate our people, how to educate those who still need to be educated. The ones that have already claimed their ignorance, they won't be changed. They sold their souls already on that one. It's the younger generations I'm worried about more and more that we have to educate. We have to get to them, unfortunately. The older generations already made their marks. Maybe the teenagers and the 20-something crowds can understand that they're also in danger. Because of ignorance and arrogance and apathy and indifference is a hell of a way to tell people who and what they are. Meaningless, worthless subhumans next to the elitism, megalomania that's running us. Let's be realistic about this one. They say books don't matter. Books was one of the founding things that we still had to read and understand about our own political system. Without understanding how democracy works, without understanding the concepts of it, we have no clue what the hell's going on. A little difficult, a little wordy to read the Federalist Papers, number 10. You can download that information, look at it, unless you're already familiar with it. I wasn't familiar with it until I got into Political Science 101 as an adult. I never came across the Federalist Papers in the 80s because I hadn't covered it all that much in our political science class in a high school. This was back in the 1980s. It drives me crazy that the ancient Greeks knew better of what they were dealing with regarding government and life, but we didn't. They didn't have a perfect society, that's for sure, but they were giving us the germs of it. At least the seeds to plant into the ground. We have a representative democracy, sir. It's something to be cherished. Everybody else is trying to nail us. It's our duty to this current generation, to the previous generations, but also to our future generation, to preserve, defend everything that we hold dear to ourselves. Our Constitution that we swore an oath of loyalty to. Yes, we have sworn our faith and loyalty to our religious beliefs. We had also said in the First Amendment that our religious beliefs will not be controlling the Constitution. Guiding us is one thing, but not control. We're given freedom of religion. We can worship in our own way, but we will not have it rule us, period. We'll be turning into like the Church of England. Or worse, Iran. I'm sorry, but we Americans need to get our asses kicked. We need to understand we are in a civil war. We are in a civil war. Our way of life is the constant way of fighting. We have a bicameral system. In the House of Congress, we have the reps versus the Senate, the saucer and the teacup. If you remembered your Political Science 101 classes in college, Mr. Pakman, surely you've come across that particular gem. Also mentioned in the Federalist Papers. Our history is not unique. In my many videos that I've been doing on my channel for the last 3 or 4 years. I've been doing this channel to get past grieving and mourning because I've had a lot of emotional triggers that put me over the edge. But when I'm actually able to think and respond clearly enough, there's a lot of things I actually do touch upon. Unfortunately, during the last 10, 15 years, we've been dealing with politics. Oh, how ugly it's been. We're going after each other and pointing the finger at people and saying, you're divided, you're derided, you're divisive. We don't want you, we don't need you. My question, Mr. Pakman, notice where my fingers are pointing at. Now, look where the other fingers are pointing at, sir. Where are they pointed at? But they don't get this. I even used an experiment concerning about light and prisms. They will not get this one either. Mr. Pakman, if you had been in a storm and you've finally seen light coming through the clouds, you've seen the refraction. You've seen the rainbow, the spectrum. Can you put this into poetic, but also into political as well at the same time? It is something we still need to discuss. It is something we still need to talk to people about. Now, I know I come from a liberal family. We have services that probably fall under the auspices of potential socialism, but the problem is they keep forgetting what socialism is all about. Karl Marx made this damn thing up a long time ago, back in the late 1800s. 1880s, 1890s, somewhere in that time. That guy was a pure meatball. He was expecting people to work for themselves, but have an elite group ruling over them, overseeing them, basically. Proletariats, bourgeois, Cossacks. They never liked the ruling classes. The ruling classes were the ego. And the workers were just the workers getting their asses kicked with slavery. That's how he looked at it. Everything should have been equal, according to Karl Marx. We're living in a representative democracy right now. It's set up that way on purpose. Mr. Pakman, do you actually understand about U.S. history? Going back before the Mayflower got over here. How are you up on your English history? Are you well aware that Church of England was established to counter the Catholicism of the Holy Roman Empire existing in Italy at the time? I call it the Holy Roman Empire because when you have Catholicism being ruled over by the Pope, who's supposed to be a symbol of God, in a sense, he was supposed to dictate the laws of the land in one way, even being over the ruling classes, including, if I'm not mistaken, the King of England, or whoever was the sovereign ruler at the time during this insanity. I think it was King George III. And George had to set up the damn Church of England, being Protestants at that point. Catholics didn't like it all that much. Some of the people really didn't like it either. When I had gone to college back between 1985 and 1987, I was taking English history to get an understanding about how the hell everything else was starting. I didn't want to study about American history. I thought I did that already in U.S. history classes. But they sure as hell didn't give me enough information during that time, I'll tell you that much. So I said, why not just talk about my own family history? So what I did was Learned about English history, how the whole damn thing started over there, because part of that was being transmitted and translated into an Americanism out here. You've heard about manifest destiny, right? Hello. A European concept? Not necessarily. What I didn't realize during that time as a young kid, I didn't have the context, I didn't have the perspective at the time as I have right now. I'm going to be turning 57 this month. My God, I'm turning into an old man. What I was learning more and more about things in college within the past decade, and I say within the past 10 years, I still call it a decade for myself. I learned more about how our past was controlled by our own ego, megalomania. It was not exactly a thirst for knowledge. It was thirst for control and dominance. Exploratory was secondary at that point. We wanted a faster, cheaper, economic route, and we thought it was going to be a lot quicker through the waters. But we also wanted to expand empires, now didn't we? Columbus, for whatever reasons he had in his skeevy little mind, or wherever was it recorded, I still think he wanted to get his name in history books somewhere. But if exploratory was the pure thing for him, then he was altruistic in it. But he really wasn't altruistic when you really study the history of this guy. And it turns out that mankind still has a problem concerning about controlling his other people. And still, one side still wants to be the elitism. We've had that all along in our history. Even if you happen to look into biblical history and the stories of Genesis and Exodus in the Old Testament, how many empires did we have during that time compared to what we have or throughout history? So nothing's new except recycled and repeated. Yeah. This is for a person who actually can think, who can actually understand and learn and listen. And you've been right all along concerning about these people who are still, they don't want to think about it. They're too damn lazy. They want everything else handed to them in a silver platter. And then after that, complain about the damn platter. Did they really know that the silver platter is only plated silver with paint on it? It's only an iron plate. Just put a magnet to the damn thing. Ooh, scary. Are we going to be doing a woke or critical race theory on that one? Who's the one that actually said the theory in the first place? Oh, but who's the conspiracy? And who did this conspiracy situation here, I wonder? And let us see. How about the goblet that you're drinking right now? Do you know if it's made by Martians? Yeah. Please tell me what kind of lunatics we're dealing with these days. It makes me tired as hell, Mr. Pakman. It makes me tired as hell. I've seen adults try to act like kids these days and try to have fun for the last days of their lives. I'm looking at my own mortality. I'm not sure if it's going to be a few years or if it's going to be several years, and during that time, how is the rest of our world, let alone our country, let alone our little neighborhood, is going to be during that time? So now I got to be worrying about and putting myself into a constant state of fear because of all this damn shit happening these days. Is this right? Is this needed? These are the things I usually put on my own damn channel. The Diary of the Graver named John Weaver, and that'd be me. I'm trying to figure all this damn shit out, I'll tell you. I hardly get any responses out of them. But to think of this, I'm talking about my own self, how I'm dealing with my grieving, my mourning, and how I'm dealing with life on life's terms. It hasn't been easy. But having intellectual conversations like this, trying to get the information out. I've learned by a lot of observations, but also by reading other materials left and right. I try to keep an open mind of what's going on, but unfortunately, I'm running into closed-minded situations where I'm trying to be multi-sided, but it's not that easy, especially when I'm biased, and that's the thing we've got a problem with here. Biasm. We are biased. We are locked. We see through our own prism, through our own band that we're looking at. As I said before about the spectrum, we're only focused on one color. We're only focused on one topic. We're only focused on one thing. We're not seeing the bigger picture. If the bigger picture really scares the living crap out of us, how the hell are we supposed to be able to deal with everybody else when they keep bringing up their own damn crap and it doesn't make sense to us? We're on a constant war with us versus them. Us versus them. The Civil War, Mr. Pakman. The Civil War. Unless, of course, we're going to be bumping up the extremes and then we turned it back into the regular Civil War. Do we need to wear Union versus Confederate now? It scares me and wears me down of coming across items and topics like this. I'm not so sure if our lifestyle is going to be the same anymore. I don't know if we're going to be the same anymore. I don't know what the hell's going on next. All I hear is people going after each other left and right. It's taken me a hell of a long time, Mr. Pakman, to understand education. About learning new things, about keeping an open mind. I always give it a lot of opportunities, a lot of chances to really make a difference. I failed at that growing up. But I have to use the failures as something to work something out to, I could say challenge myself at this point over here, but to fix the mistakes I've made back then. And the amount of time I've got right now. I wanted to write books. I still do. But I wanted to be what I was intended to be, and I never knew it. Mr. Pakman, whenever you get a chance in your life, in your busy life, or have an intern do this, check out some of the videos I've got. They may give you a little bit of an insight of whether or not if I'm actually a nut job, or am I actually talking what I'm talking about, if it's actually making sense to a lot of people. Right now, I'm just tired. I'm just physically, emotionally, and damn near spiritually tired. I've seen through much. I've been through too much. The videos will probably tell you a lot about that one, too. So, for right now, Mr. Pakman. And if you happen to see anything that's crawling around over here, that's not special effects. That's a bug war I'm still dealing with. I don't like squishing these sons of bitches. I have to keep brushing them off left and right. I don't like this. But it's a reality check I have to deal with. You're worrying about the public and you're worrying about people and about what they're going to be perceiving, what they're going to be dealing with. I'm in a constant reality check here, sir. Concerning about my own emotional stability and my own physical stability. Maybe somewhere in between, I can get around to discussing politics one more time. And the gentleman I was trying to think of all this time was Aristotle. He is intelligent, that's for sure. I'll take you that for granted. The art of politics. Have a good night, Mr. Pakman. And yes, I do find your and your colleagues' materials intriguing, even though they will drive me crazy a little bit. Sometimes I do agree the main media just doesn't cover it enough. Maybe it is corporate. I don't know. I'm not going to argue the situation. But for the rest of the stuff I see online, expect the unexpected.